The sinking of HMS Royal Oak is one of the most dramatic and harrowing stories of naval warfare during the early months of World War II. It's a tale of surprise, audacity, and devastating consequences, set against the backdrop of the cold, unforgiving waters of Scapa Flow, the supposed safe haven of the British fleet in the Orkney Islands, Scotland. The attack on the Royal Oak shattered British confidence in their defences and marked the beginning of a new, perilous phase in the Battle of the Atlantic. This tragedy, carried out by one of the most daring German U-boat commanders, left an indelible mark on both sides of the conflict. The calm before the storm. On the evening of October 13, 1939, the British battleship HMS Royal Oak lay anchored in Scapa Flow, seemingly safe within the massive walls of the natural harbour that had been the fortress of the British Royal Navy for over a century. The ship, a Revenge-class battleship, was a symbol of British naval strength. With her 33,000-ton displacement and 15-inch guns, she was a formidable presence, her decks brimming with the proud crew who had sailed her since 1916. But little did they know, that night Scapa Flow was no longer the impregnable sanctuary it had once been. The shadows beneath the waves concealed a threat, a deadly predator that had slipped through the supposed vigilance of the British coastal defences. The Silent Hunter. The U-boat that would make history that night was U-47, commanded by the ambitious and daring Captain Lieutenant Gunther Preen. Preen was a man whose reputation for audacity had already made him a rising star in the Kriegsmarine. Having previously achieved success with swift and bold strikes, he was about to make a move that would etch his name into the annals of naval history. U-47 had crossed the North Sea under the cover of darkness, avoiding the defences surrounding Scapa Flow. The British were convinced that the waters of the flow were heavily patrolled, that submarines couldn't get past its defences. But Preen, with unmatched cunning, had studied the weaknesses of the harbour and had found his way in. As Preen guided U-47 into position under the cloak of night, the eerie stillness of the water masked the silent approach of his boat. On board the Royal Oak, the crew was going about their usual duties, unaware of the impending doom. The torpedo strikes. The night was cold, and the waters around Scapa Flow were calm, perfect conditions for Preen's attack. At 0:35, on October 14, 1939, U-47 fired 3 torpedoes at the Royal Oak, each of them carrying the deadly potential to cripple the ship. The first 2 struck their target with a thunderous crash, ripping through the hull like a hammer through glass. The explosions were deafening, reverberating across the harbour. The shock waves tore through the Royal Oak, shattering bulkheads and rupturing watertight compartments. Water flooded in at an uncontrollable rate, and chaos erupted on board as men scrambled to assess the damage and save their ship. But it was too late. The Royal Oak was already doomed. The blast had triggered a series of secondary explosions, likely from the ship's ammunition stores. The ship began to list, tilting precariously as the crew fought desperately to maintain control. Panic spread throughout the ship as the hull was breached, and the lifeblood of the battleship began to spill out into the icy waters. The death toll. The Royal Oak sank at an astonishing speed, going down in less than 13 minutes. In the confusion and horror, 833 men lost their lives, in nearly half of the ship's crew. The captain, Arnold Ridley, went down with his ship, unable to rally his men in time to prevent the disaster. The survivors, numbering 386, had to swim or scramble onto lifeboats and debris, their bodies frozen by the frigid temperatures of the North Sea. The harshness of the environment made their struggle to survive even more desperate. They faced the chilling reality of cold water and the treacherous currents, clinging to whatever they could find to stay afloat. The aftermath. The news of the sinking sent shockwaves through Britain. This was no ordinary attack. The Royal Oak was one of the pride of the Royal Navy, and its loss in such a spectacular manner was a brutal reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the surface of the seemingly secure British homeland. For the German Navy, the attack was a massive morale booster. U-47's successful strike under Preen's leadership was hailed as a triumph. Preen himself became a hero, receiving the Knight's Cross and widespread recognition for his boldness and skill. The story of U-47's daring attack would be retold in Germany, a symbol of the Navy's potential to strike at the heart of British defences. But the loss of the Royal Oak had long-lasting repercussions. The British Navy re-evaluated its security around Scapa Flow, understanding that no place was truly safe. The British would later implement new anti-submarine measures and tighten the defences around Scapa Flow to prevent future attacks. A legacy of tragedy. The sinking of HMS Royal Oak not only marked the loss of a ship but also represented the fragility of Britain's naval superiority. It symbolized the growing effectiveness of the German U-boat fleet, which would go on to cause massive disruption to Allied shipping throughout the war. For those who survived, the memory of that fateful night would haunt them forever. The attack also demonstrated the power of the submarine as a weapon, silent, stealthy, and capable of wreaking havoc without warning. The Royal Navy would soon learn that the war at sea would not be fought only by massive battleships and fleets of destroyers, but by the hidden predators lurking beneath the waves, waiting for their moment to strike. The end of an era. In the years that followed, the U-boat campaign would continue to exact a heavy toll on the Allies, but the sinking of the Royal Oak stood as a stark reminder that even the mightiest of ships could be vulnerable. The sinking of the Royal Oak was not just an isolated attack, it was a harbinger of the relentless, shadowy warfare that would define the Battle of the Atlantic. As for Captain Lieutenant Gunther Preen, his fame as the captain who brought down the Royal Oak was cemented. But this victory would not last long. In 1941, Preen would meet his end when U-47 was sunk in the North Atlantic, a fitting yet tragic end to one of the most dramatic and daring submarine operations of the war. The sinking of HMS Royal Oak remains a powerful symbol of the risks and the ever-present threat of the sea during World War II. It was an event that forever altered the course of the conflict and brought the war to the doorstep of Britain in a way that few had anticipated. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to stay updated with more content. This content has been adapted from the powerful features of Polyspeaks for You, South Africa's leading accessibility software. Learn more at www.polyspeaksforyou.co.za. We invite you to support this meaningful dyslexic initiative, crafted and developed by an individual who personally understands the challenges of dyslexia.